War Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another Auburn family news segment where we get together and we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn Tigers and everything in between. Everything on that spectrum is in play here, from football to every other sport. Anything with the Auburn culture, we're going to talk about it here. We're broadcasting live on YouTube mainly here, but we also have Twitter/Periscope, whichever version of it you want to call, going live as well. So if you're watching this live, please feel free to let me know that you're here with a War Eagle. Hello, whatever you'd like to, and don't be shy. Ask questions, leave comments. Love to address what you're feeling tonight with the topics that we have listed above and many more. Anything is fair game to talk about on this segment here tonight. And even if you're not watching this live, feel free to ask questions and leave comments as well, and we'll address them as we can on social media and on YouTube. As you do come in, I do ask you to do one thing. If you would, on YouTube, smash the like button. Same thing for Twitter as well. Retweet, all that good stuff. It does help, and we have a better conversation when we have more Auburn fans. And we had LSU fans in here the other day. It's the oddest thing. They seem to come out. The rival fans seem to come out of the woodwork when you're down on your luck. They love to come and rub it in and kind of mess with you a little bit. So don't be surprised if we get a rogue Alabama fan or two here tonight. Would not shock me in the least at all. So on tonight's docket, we're going to be discussing what I have in the title of this stream tonight. The Auburn Search Committee has been formed. Who are they looking for? Or are they looking for anybody? That's the big question that maybe we'll talk about tonight. Obviously, there's some other things to talk about as well, some more fun things to talk about, things that aren't super divisive amongst the Auburn family. One of those things is that Auburn basketball is highly talented. They got a win last night over Texas Southern in Auburn Arena, and today was early signing day for recruiting in football, and there are a lot of new faces that are officially going to be Auburn Tigers. A couple of surprises as well. So I don't know a lot about those. I haven't done my research today because I've been at work, but if you'd like to talk about some of those, we are obviously fair game here to talk about those things. But I figured the big thing that's on everybody's mind tonight is the football head coaching search, and we're going to definitely dive into that a little bit tonight. But let me go ahead and set the table a little bit and suggest that if you haven't watched some of these other streams, and typically we don't do these in the afternoon, but since this is kind of an ever-changing situation right now, I figured it'd be fun to get on this evening and chat with you all about it. Right now I'm actually trying to pull up, I should have done this beforehand, the list of the search committee, because I think that's where we should start. But what I was saying is if you haven't watched any other streams, I would have recommended it. Because you would kind of understand where I'm coming from on my perspective of all this. But I guess if I was going to lay that out very simply for you to help you understand where I come from on the Gus Malzahn situation and all that. I'm a humongous Gus Malzahn fan, and I believe without 100% shadow of a doubt, even more so after the events that have been transpiring, that we made an absolutely stupid decision. And now we're trying to find the best out of a bad situation, which, depending on who you talk to, it's not going to get much better. So that's kind of where I come from. Everything that I have my sources. Everybody's got their sources, so you can believe them or not. You can believe me or not. I will tell you that my predictions, based on the people that have told me information, and it has come true thus far. So, and I'm trying to make sure that I actually don't make any wild, outlandish things. Other than, I will say this, for those of you who may not watch the streams any, I said when I was asked what is my short list for Auburn's next coach, it was one name and one name only, and that is Dabo Swinney. And most of you that haven't listened to the stream before are like, Kyle, you're an idiot. Yeah, I know. Look, I know he's not coming, but if you pay a top 10 level in terms of value, money value, to leave, shouldn't you pay for a top 10 candidate? Where are they? On my personal Twitter account, I even tweeted out, I said, the search committee currently looking for the top 10 candidates to warrant a top 10 buyout. And you can't find them anywhere right now that I know of. But Dabo Swinney was it. And he's not coming. But if you want my short list, the only one that makes me happy in a very bad situation, that's Dabo Swinney. So Hey, if you're going to shoot your shot, Auburn. Why not? The guy can recruit. The guy can coach. He seems to be a pretty decent guy. Fills all the markers for me. Why not? Anyway, here's your search committee tonight, and I want to hear your perspectives. Do you like the search committee? Fans of who's on here? If he's not, obviously Alan Green, the AD, has got to be part of that, and will lead this team. Some familiar names and some maybe not so familiar. Bo Jackson be part of this. Your most illustrious football player obviously needs to be a part of that. So it's no shock there that he would be a part of it. And if Pat Sullivan were still here and he had been in better health, I would imagine that he probably would have been part of this as well. Ron Burgess, Dr. Beverly Marshall. Most of these are faculty people that have been on the board and stuff like that. Tim Jackson, who I believe is the vice AD or assistant AD of development or something like that. Quentin Riggins, big fan of Q. I actually wanted him to be the assistant or the athletic director this go around, and I would vouch for him again based on what I know. Randy Campbell, very familiar name in Auburn football, and then Michelle McKenna, who is a very big name in NFL player, and she's got Auburn ties as well, I believe. A lot of people like her being a part of this committee here. So that's your committee. The big question now is, who are they searching for, if anybody? What do y'all think? Do you think that this committee was formed to actually search for the next head football coach? Or was it formed to make you think they're looking for the next head football coach? I think there's cases to be made both ways. Let me take some step backs and kind of walk you through what I believe has happened and why we're here where we are. And so it's going to just bear with me if y'all have watched some of the past streams, and you'll kind of know what I'm going to say here and what has proven pretty much to be true thus far. The big power brokers in terms of money finally had the money and the what's the word I'm looking for? The power to get rid of Gus Malzahn, even though they shouldn't have this year. So that's the reason this is happening. Problem is they put their money in the Mario Cristobal Bank. And again, let me just say this. This is I have nothing confirmed. I have sources, but this is just my using what information I have and walking it with my own implications out. Mario Cristobal was the guy. He has kind of played them a little bit. Maybe he won't. Maybe he is going to be the head coach at some point. I will say, I don't know why you want him as your head coach. If he does, anybody that comes, I'm going to support them, and I'm going to be on their team. I don't know how he's worthy of a top 10 buyout, but and here's the funny thing. Most people that are supporting the Mario Cristobal thing think that he made it to the Pac-12 championship on his merit. Is a technicality. Didn't even get there. Anyway. But he has the same amount of conference championships that Gus Malzahn does. And I don't even think the same amount of, well, maybe this amount of appearances as well. But doesn't really look much like an upgrade. So that didn't come to fruition. So now they're stuck in this place where they made this stupid decision, didn't have a backup plan, and so now they're having to go to Kevin Steele, who I believe, regardless now, is the best possible situation for an already bad situation that we should have never, ever, ever been in to begin with. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I mean that sincerely. And I know a lot of you that are watching, especially on Twitter, are part of the whole Stop Steal campaign. Stop it. Y'all need to stop it. That's so stupid. You'd never say that to a coach or player's face. If you're part of that, you're part of the problem. I have my reservations, and I've said them publicly, Cristobal being one of them, that I don't necessarily want as a head coach. And I'll have to deal with that if that comes true. But if you're part of the Stop the Steal, if you're being cute and putting Stop the Steal in your Twitter handle and things like that, you're part of the problem. You are. Just like if you celebrated Coach Malzahn being fired, not that you could be happy about it, but if you celebrated it, post little things about it, you're a terrible person. Same thing there. Probably didn't make too many people happy with that last comment there, but hey, I said it anyway. Being a little bit honest these days about these things. So that's where we are right now. Since then, it's my opinion that we are now formed this committee to search, but there is no searching going on in terms of legitimately. I think if there is any searching going on, the only person that will be searched and interviewed will be Lane Kiffin. There's been a little bit of noise from my sources that have gotten that going lately. And I think that is someone that potentially would like the job and will potentially get a look at. So the committee may be actually looking, but I don't think that they're built for what you think. I think this is for show. I think this is to kind of make it look like we had a plan. The plan fell through. As of this moment, the plan was Mario Cristobal, in my opinion, and it has fallen through as of this moment, but may come to fruition. But I do think that he played us to get a better contract, similar to Coach Malzahn playing Arkansas a couple of years ago and got him a better contract. So where does that leave us? That's the big question of this stream here. Auburn Search Committee, who are they looking for? I am of the opinion that they're not necessarily looking for anybody. If they do search for someone, it's going to be Lane Kiffin. They might, if they continue to not be satisfied with Coach Kevin Steele getting promoted, they might go out and look at some of these smaller names. Again, I don't know why you'd fire a top 10 level buyout for a less than top 10 coach, but here I stand. But what do you think? Or do you think that the committee was formed to actually look for something, or do you think it was for show? I think it's probably somewhere in the middle, but more so on the for show side is where my opinion stands on that. And if that's the case, who do you want them to go look for? Let's see. DRL Auburn on Twitter says, we can't let the team implode. Kevin Steele is the right situation to keep this from happening. I 100% agree. As I said this before, so thanks for your comment. Keep them coming. And you all can do that as well on Twitter and YouTube. Don't be shy. I don't bite too hard. Kevin Steele is the best of a bad situation. And that's not a knock on Kevin Steele, by the way. It's not a knock on him. He is the best of a bad situation that Auburn should never have been in. This decision should have never been made. You could see the tide, that's a bad word to use, turning yesterday with the public opinion about this, realizing the reality of the situation we're in, and everybody's kind of like, I've also been of the opinion, too, that when you look at how divided the Auburn fan base was over Gus Malzahn, but also this situation as a whole, that it's actually 55% were in favor of keeping Gus, 45%, the more vocal percentage, even though they're smaller, and the ones you hear more of are the ones that were not. And based on our Facebook poll last time I checked, I haven't checked in a couple of hours actually though, so it could have changed by then. It really reflects that. The question I asked was, 2 days in, and it was yesterday when we posted it, how confident are you that Auburn made the right choice to fire Gus Malzahn? I think at the time I looked, it was 14 said they were 100 to 75% sure. 14 said they were 0 to 25%, and then another like 5 or something were like 25 to 50. What does that tell you? Weren't a lot of people happy with this decision? 50. I think I'm on the money with that 55 to 45 split that we're not in favor of this decision. WizDragon, what's going on, man? Nice to see you over here on YouTube. He says, yeah, everyone fussing over Steele, and I think Steele does not want a head coaching job. It's the first time I've heard it. I don't know why you wouldn't want one. He is towards the end of his career. My information says that he wants it. And I wasn't able to watch the press conference. From what I hear, he handled it pretty well. Some of the quotes, if you take them in the context that they were shared in on social media, seemed pretty impressive. As I've said, I'm going to maintain this. Kevin Steele is the best of this bad situation we should have never been in. Period. The best is not going to be a reality. That's Dabo Swinney. But, the biggest draw that people have for the Mario Cristobal is that he recruits well, because you can't really compare it to you have to compare whoever you choose to Gus Malzahn. You do. I mean, because you have to weigh, was this worth it or not when you're making this decision. And the only thing that you can really put in Mario Cristobal's favor at this point is recruiting. But that can't be the only reason that you do it. That's not our only problem. We got much bigger problems in Auburn football and Auburn athletics than this. And I feel like, personally, from what I know, there's going to be some bigger problems coming down the line very, 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 very soon. We might have more on that later. But, back to what Wiz Dragon said. All the fussing over Kevin Steele. The big thing and here's the funny thing about this. The whole stop the steal thing is a lot of the people that didn't want Gus Malzahn anyway. Wouldn't you want to prove people like me wrong that are staunchly saying that Gus Malzahn was the guy and this was a huge, huge mistake? Because think about it. Kevin Steele gets promoted. He likely keeps all of the defensive staff the same, maybe some of the offensive staff. Hey, let me catch this Twitter question. He said, the question is who the players want to be head coach. I think they would like Kevin Steele. That's a great point. Let me come back to that in just a second. But and I see there's another. I'll get to all the questions as they come in. We got a lot of things firing in. By the way, thank y'all for being here. If you can, hit the like button, the retweet button on Twitter, so we can get a great group in here interacting and having conversation. Excuse me. I lost my train of thought on that one. We were talking about Kevin Steele, and oh my gosh, I can't even remember what we were talking about on that angle. Anyway, Kevin Steele, I think, is the best of this bad situation. Let's see what Shaq says. Maybe that'll actually jog my memory. It's Mario. It's Mario would be the guy if you're looking for recruiting. However, what's the guy out there that just competes? I don't know the guy. I don't think that's out there. That's why I think this was a poor decision. So I think Mario gets you great recruiting, but what else? He's an Saban acolyte. None of them have beaten him yet. How does that solve our problem there? You got rid of a guy with the best record against Saban, arguably your most important rival, but also the route through the SEC West currently. And it's not. I get it. It sucks to say it, but that's the reality that it is. Let's just get a guy that doesn't get beat by 30. Just put a guy in there that's going to make players compete, like Arkansas this year. Auburn has better athletes. I get what you're saying, Shaq. I do. I don't know that I like that mentality. Let's just get a guy. We're Auburn. We don't just get a guy. We get the guy. Maybe not the best guy out there, but we go get the top 10, the top 5. And this doesn't feel like a top 10, top 5 situation. It doesn't. If we want to be considered one of the upper echelon, we got to start acting like it. I don't want to go just get a guy. I want to go get the guy. So that's why I say you go swing for Dabo Swinney. Boosters want to spend money. Let's see how deep their pockets are. I'll throw $10 at it. But your point stands, though. Just get somebody that can motivate the guys at this point. And back to the comment earlier, I forget who said it here on Twitter. He thinks that Kevin Steele will get the everyone to compete for him. We need to get who the athletes want as their head coach. I hate to break it to you, that was right. So there you go. I hate to break it to y'all. The athletes wanted Gus Malzahn. I know it seems cliche. The athletes wanted coach. They did. Y'all didn't. And I say y'all, and I know not everybody agreed with the decision that's watching this, but if y'all wanted what the athletes wanted, they wanted coach. Shaq, I know we're not getting Dabo, but my point in saying that is people ask my short list. My short list begins and ends with Dabo Swinney, because if you're going to fire someone, that means you need an upgrade. Any of the names that I've heard thus far are not an upgrade. They are barely being a status quo, and that would be what Kevin Steele is. And that's my argument for why Kevin Steele is the best of a bad situation we should never been in, because he will maintain stability, and I'm a big fan of stability, or else we will fall further and further behind not only Alabama but LSU and everything else. Their tweets indicate they're not happy about Gus being fired. Yeah, if you look at their tweets, again, everybody can just kind of put on a facade, but all we know about Gus is how much the players loved him and how clean, how well, we don't know, squeaky clean of a program he ran. But if you wanted who the players wanted, you should have kept Gus Malzahn. Doesn't mean that they won't get on board with the next guy that comes in. But I'm going to keep saying this till I'm blue in the face. This was the wrong decision. And the evidence of it keeps mounting up. And there's coming a day where some people are going to have to face that reality, and they're not going to want to admit that they were wrong. Because here's the thing, is that on my theories and all this, if I'm wrong, Auburn wins. And I'm happy about that. What if we hired Steele and then he turns around and hires Gus? I think you said this. Was it you that said this yesterday, Wiz? Excuse me. I think it was you that said. Somebody said this on the stream yesterday. Sure, I mean, it'd be hilarious. But that, I remember what it was. Okay. If you want to shut up people like me who are adamant that this was the wrong decision and we should never fire Gus Malzahn and are kind of being very staunch in that, if you want to shut us up, hire Kevin Steele. Why? He keeps the defensive staff the same, most likely. Probably a lot, if just some, of the offensive staff. Brings in his own offensive coordinator. Probably keeps Cadillac, people like that are close to the program, because that's not going to really change that much. But then what happens? If Kevin Steele is successful, then Gus Malzahn was the problem. And then I have to shut up. But I think that's the fear, because the other side of that equation, if Kevin Steele fails, then it becomes very evident that not necessarily Gus was the problem. And I'm not saying Kevin Steele's the problem. What I'm saying is that everybody's hatred of him and dislike of his mediocrity might have been a little unwarranted. And I think that's the scary thing about this situation for some folks, especially if it means Kevin Steele comes. Wiz, it wasn't you. Well, then two people in 2 days have said that. That's pretty funny. It must be a common theory going around on message boards and things like that. By the way, look, I'm not going to say you can't be part of a message board or things like that. That place is just a barrel of negativity. If you're there, I've watched it happen with friends even recently. It changes you, man. So my recommendation is you get off message boards, but that place just breeds not great stuff. I will tell you, though, in a completely flip a switch there, we have a Facebook group called Auburn Family Tree where we talk about some of these things, and we try to keep it very, not necessarily positive, but if you're going to be critical, be constructively critical. And we're very strict about that. So if you would like to come over and try that out, you can. It functions like a message board, except it's Facebook, so you kind of have to be accountable to yourself because we can see your face. So Steele is the coach who would be a good OC. I don't know. I'm at this point. I just want to get a head coach. That's all I want. I haven't even taken that step next. It's a great question, though. So if you have a suggestion, please offer one. If you're a coach at Auburn, 46 in recruiting is bad. Also, is PJ Fleck a great pickup? Not necessarily an upgrade, but give PJ Fleck for motivation. So PJ Fleck gets you motivation. Any coach can motivate. I'm not knocking what PJ Fleck does, but you fire someone to upgrade. Because if you're not, you're wasting time, money, and effort. How is that an upgrade? In my opinion, it's not. I'd love to see you make the case for it. Overtime says we need Steve Sarkisian. Couldn't be the furthest from the truth. Again, I'll say this again after I just made that statement. I will support whoever comes here unless they do something just like morally, ethically wrong. Steve Sarkisian, that's below my right now. My list is Dabo Sweeney. For those of you coming in, they're like, "What an idiot!" But you haven't heard my reasoning otherwise. Then Kevin Steele's like at 51A, 51B is Hugh Freeze, who's not coming, and then it would be Mario Cristobal like at 99. Steve Sarkisian ain't even in my galaxy. I do not want to be a Bama acolyte. I do not want that. They do not have success against him. Name them, and I'll shut up. But they don't. So no to Steve Sarkisian. I'd love to hear why you think he'd be a great option other than that he has a great offense. Gus Malzahn had a great offense. Not necessarily of late, but he did. That can't be the reason. I just thought of it. I can't handle message boards, USA Today or Sports Illustrated. Yeah. It's a breeding ground of the man is an offensive mastermind, Overtime says. How so? Because people still say Gus Malzahn is an offensive mastermind. And that's not me saying that. That's actually people who have some clout and some, he can recruit the big boys. So can Gus Malzahn. So can Mario Cristobal. There's nothing about that's an upgrade to me. All of those things that we're saying here, surprise, Matt Campbell at Iowa State is not part of the list. Nah, that's not an upgrade. It's not. And I know I'm being adamant about that, guys, but you have not given me someone that's an upgrade. Because if we fired a top 10 level buyout in terms of the amount, then what are we doing not going for a top 10 level hire? Overtime says the potency of Sarkisian of that Alabama offense. Just because someone comes over doesn't mean that translates. It could. If it does, it's great. If Sarkisian's the coach, it's great. But at what cost? Not on my list. My list is very hard to get on and stay on, much less. But that's me, and like I've said the entire time, if I'm wrong, we win. So, what else? Is that we open this up by talking about the search committee. If there's anybody that you think should be on it, or do you not happy about anybody? There's what's up, Greg? He says there's not a possible upgrade. This is why it's a major mistake. Greg and I are like one and the same in this. He has been very adamant about that. As well as me, probably more adamant than me. Overtime says, what about Billy Napier? Again, my question will be to you, how is that an upgrade? We're Auburn. We don't restart. We upgrade. Right? Gus Malzahn, whether you want to admit it or not, was an upgrade from Gene Chizik. He was. Because Gene Chizik came in with a, 6-20-something record from Iowa State? Billy Napier is not an upgrade. So here, let me help you understand maybe. Here's my list. And I think this made a lot of people understand why my short list begins and ends with Dabo Swinney if you can't get Gus Malzahn back. And Greg says, I want Gus. I'm with you, man, but it ain't happening. I'd love nothing more for us to turn tail, but we got people that are too proud to admit they made a mistake. Here's my list. And this, I know that, why am I giving my pinky first? I know this is not for everybody, but this is just me. I'm a Christian, and I want a Christian man as number one because to me, there are more important things than winning, and I think that's why so many people have a problem as Auburn fans is because they value winning more than they should. And if you put your value on something much higher, you learn to deal with these type of situations, especially the frustrations that Gus was having this year and the last couple of years, much easier. So number one, a Christian man. Number two, can he stay competitive in the SEC, especially our rivals? Can he do that? Has he shown he can do that? Number three, can he beat Alabama? Beat Alabama. Number four, can he recruit? And number five, I think this one's changed for me a little bit, but has he he has to have head coaching experience and run a clean program, at least as far as we can tell. Not many people that fit that list, and that's why it's hard to get on my list. Okay, there's not an upgrade. Dream. I think you meant dream big. Dream big, though. Urban. Do you really want Urban Meyer here? Do you really want him to come win a championship and then have another medical issue or family issue and then leave, and then we're back at square one again? I want stability, not a championship. Because championships will come with stability. It will if we would have been patient enough, but we weren't. William Ingram. I'm a lifelong Auburn fan, but I am becoming a Colorado fan. You know, knuckleheads will not know how to hire a coach if you gave you for Christmas. Yes, I will have to say Gus was an upgrade, but I see Napier as an aggressive recruiter, and he is hungry for wins. And yes, I agree with you 100% on the Christian aspect. Well, good. I'm glad we can start there. That's a great place to start from. But again, you've given me nothing that Gus already wasn't on Napier. These things of he's hungry for wins, he's a great motivator. You can make the case that Gus wasn't the great motivator, like in terms of what you think. But did you see the way that his athletes responded to his firing? They weren't happy. That's a motivated bunch in my book. Kerry just point blank asked it, who will be the Auburn coach? Me. No, you don't want that. Who will be the Auburn head coach? Who should be the Auburn head coach? It should be Gus Malzahn. It won't be. And that's why we're in a bad situation and we're trying to find the best possible scenario to fix a bad situation that we should never been in. Kerry, just a cut to the chase with you on this. I think that Kevin Steele will be the head coach. And I've said that he's the best of a bad situation we should never been in. And people need to get okay with that. And they need to stop doing hashtag stop Steele or whatever it is, or whatever cute thing they're doing on social media, because you're part of the problem if you're doing that. You can be vocal. You can say things that, I've said it right here. I'm not a fan of Cristobal. I'm not a fan of Sarkisian. I'm not a fan of, that's probably the two big ones there. Bryles, that one's thankfully kind of slowed down a little bit. But if you're doing that, you're part of the problem. You are. Hire Bruce Pearl for football and basketball. That's the best advice that someone has said, and it's been done in the past. I would be okay with that at this point. At least we all love Bruce Pearl until we don't. And we get dissatisfied again because we focused on winning more than we focus on something much higher and much more important. Neil, what's up, man? He says, when do you think they'll announce Steele as the head coach? I think there's someone else in play. I think that is Lane Kiffin, unfortunately. And I'm trying to make peace with that. And when I say in play, I don't think that he's in play in terms of the committee. I think he wants to be in play. I'd like to see that play itself out before anything else. But the longer we wait, the early signing period's done, so you don't have that to kind of be a cause to hurry up. No huddle. But I don't have an answer for you, man. I kind of wish it'd just be done so we could all watch everybody implode on Twitter. But hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. That's all I'm asking. But you don't form a committee. You form a committee for two reasons: to actually search for something or to do it for show. And either way, you want to take your time. So, because you don't want to pretend that you did it for show. The overtime. The problem with Gus was that he had nothing to point to on an offensive line. All he can say is he have one lineman in the NFL. I'm not going to argue with you on that. The worst decision Gus Malzahn ever made was hire Herb Hand. It is the reason we never got back out of the hole in that sense. So I'm not going to argue with you on that. But was that a reason to fire the guy? No. It was a reason to understand we made one bad decision, and it's going to take us a little time to work out of that, and we were going to require a little patience. But we didn't have it. And now we want Steve Sarkisian or Billy Napier. A mediocre hire for what people said they didn't like about Gus. Mediocrity. Neil says, my Ole Miss buddies keep texting me asking if Auburn is going to get Kiffin. I don't think they could take another Ole Miss coach being taken. But that's the nature of Ole Miss. We just take their things. Kevin Steele is in retirement. He said a few years ago Auburn is setting up Steele like Malzahn, below average bunch of money for Steele family. I still think it's the best of a bad situation. I'll be honest with you. I really, really do. I know that infuriates some people to think that and say that, but we didn't have to be here, guys. It didn't have to be this way. Some of y'all wanted it, and you're getting what you wanted. And look, I know that I'm kind of being a little brash, and maybe it comes off a little bit, maybe a little arrogant. I don't know why I'm grabbing that. Just felt like I did. But I've exactly how I predicted this thing was going to go down. It's gone down, and it sucks. It sucks to know that you knew how this was going to go down. And it went down this way. Shaq says it's not like the guy that comes in is not going to have talent. There's talent on the roster. It's mainly about development, in my opinion, and just staying in the top 7 in recruiting. Just the top 7? I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I really don't. I know that infuriates some people to think that and say that, but we didn't have to be here, guys. It didn't have to be this way. Some of y'all wanted it, and you're getting what you wanted. And look, I know that I'm kind of being a little brash, and maybe it comes off a little bit, maybe a little arrogant. I don't know why I'm grabbing that. Just felt like it. It's a little low for me. Neil says, is Bobby Louder still around? In some ways, he'll never go away. There are bigger threats than Bobby Louder around these days, and I'll leave it at that. I'm not really understanding the reason for thinking Gus should be the coach. Mind explaining. Okay, well, I do need to kind of get off in a second, and I know several people that have been here on the Twitter, and we've been doing these for the last couple of days as I have time. And by the way, if you're here, I try to do these in the morning, barring my schedule, if I can. But the news is just too juicy these days not to do them, so that's why I'm on today. Here is my. I hope you heard my list of what I want, and obviously that lines up very well with Gus Malzahn. So that in and of itself, my biggest thing is if you're going to buy out a $21 million coach, which is a top 10 buyout, you should be at least, at minimum, going for a top 10 hire. And nobody on that list is a top 10 hire. Nobody. You can say they're great at recruiting, they're great motivators, they're this, they're that. Nobody on that list is. If Gus is the coach, we would stay the same, and everyone would pass us like Florida, LSU, and Texas A&M. You don't know that. I mean, that's easy to say that because you're probably coming from it sounds like a defeatist attitude there. This was a bad year and a COVID-19 year, and I was of the opinion that Bo Nix's junior year, especially with a second year under Chad Morris, that was going to be good. That was going to be real good. But we can't have that because we can't have nice things. I called Randy Campbell today. Good. I love Auburn. It makes me sick. I understand what you mean by threats. Did I say threats? I missed that one. Gus needed to go, DS says, because it's the same thing year in and year out. Take the risk on something new. Gus didn't develop a single quarterback, quite frankly. Quite frankly, he did. You just don't want to see it. I've battled several people with your same opinion, and you can't say that Nick Marshall didn't develop. You can't say that Jared Stidham didn't develop. Sean White, even in a year and a half, developed. And maybe not to the level that you want, but he did. Jeremy Johnson was just an absolute, who saw that coming? We all thought we saw it on the field. He was great, and then suddenly wasn't. That's just a Jeremy Johnson. Loved the dude, hated it didn't work out for him. That's a Jeremy Johnson problem. And someone the other day tried to tie Kyle Frazier to that. Kyle Frazier started his career when Gus wasn't even here, and then Gus didn't even start him. You can't blame that one on Gus. The reason Gus needed to go is because he's way overpaid, so winning is the most important thing. So, DS, I'm going to get a little bit on my soapbox here for you, and this is just me personally. If winning is your most important thing, you will never be satisfied. And I know that sounds hokey, but I mean that sincerely. That's the reason we're in this situation, is because Auburn chose winning over integrity. They did. We will never be satisfied with winning. You need to put your satisfaction personally on something higher. And if you don't do that, you'll be in the same situation again in 4 to 5 years, if that long. Bo Nix spent a lot of time running for his life. Yeah, good. Poor kid could never catch a break with that offensive line. Let's see. There were transfers. Shaquille, I'm not sure what that's in regard to. War Eagle. It is great to be an Auburn Tiger no matter what, but it is interesting time right now. I just want to beat Alabama. I do not like Nick Saban. Sorry. I hope that they hire a good coach. We all want to be Alabama. And I think some people have this weird, if your focus is to be Alabama, you're being a little brother. Since when weren't they not the top of college football? I mean, they're number one at least at some point every single year. They've been in almost except for last year, every single college football playoff. Why wouldn't you make them your goal to beat? That doesn't make you little brother. That makes you a realist. And I don't want to be them. I want to beat them. A lot of people want to be them. I want to beat them. And that's really what this is. We did it when we chose Gus Malzahn over Kirby Smart. We chose to not beat Alabama. We chose to beat Alabama, and it worked. Gus Malzahn has the highest winning percentage over any other head coach. Not winning percentage, I shouldn't say that, but the most wins over Nick Saban than any active head coach. And you want to fire that? I'm going to question your logic on that one. All right, let's see. To be the man, you got to beat the man. Well said. I don't know what that was. I don't know if that was in favor of what I was saying or what. But anyway, guys, before we get out of here, I want to take rapid fire questions and comments again, if you have them, and it can be about anything. It doesn't have to be about this topic. I mentioned Auburn had a great basketball win, had some fun last night. The recruits today. Anything that you'd like to get in rapid fire, please do right here. Real quick though. We are a podcast network, and if you have not checked it out, you can find it on Apple Podcast or anywhere. If it's not available on your preferred podcast format, please let me know. We will get it available to you. Just put out a breakdown of the basketball game for myself on Inside the Jungle, our men's basketball show, last night. Hope you'll check that out. I always love talking about it. Might have some new voices appearing on that very, very soon. So you'll want to check that out if you haven't done that as well. And if you haven't, if you're here on YouTube, please make sure you're subscribed and have that notification bell hit. Since we don't do these on a regular basis, you'll want to know when we go live again, because there's plenty of juicy stuff coming out later, I'm sure. Or we'll be talking about #StopSteal, apparently. All right, rapid fire stuff here at the end. Gus is a thorn in Saban's side. You can't beat Saban by trying to be Saban. CUJ. Couldn't agree more, Neil. Couldn't agree more. It's not even about beating Alabama. It's just about consistency. I can tell you what we're consistently going to be for the next couple years after this decision. Tennessee. And if I'm wrong, we win. Right? So, why did Pearl self-impose sanctions on his own team? Is Auburn going to get hit by the NCAA? I mean, that was kind of what that tells you, right? That's preparation for something coming. It's unfortunate that had to happen. Really unfortunate with this talented team. Not saying we're going to win it all this year. I don't think that's the case. We lost to UCF, but sure looked good, though. My friend died in Iraq, and Auburn graduate. He gave me his coin that I use when I play. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Playoff picks. I hate to admit it, but it looks like Alabama's going to smoke whoever's in the playoffs. I play golf. Auburn. Golf at Auburn? Play golf at Auburn that you love so much. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I've been to a couple of golf courses there, even though I'm not a great golfer. And the winner, I mean, logically, I have to pick Alabama as the winner, but, I'm hoping that Ohio State or Clemson can pull that out. Maybe Notre Dame. I just don't want to see an Alabama-Notre Dame matchup again. I don't really want to see an Alabama matchup with anything. If I had my preference, I would see a Notre Dame versus Ohio State matchup, and Notre Dame wins. So I will be rooting for Notre Dame because I don't want either of the other three to win, but I think that's what's going to happen. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here. Y'all been a great group to hang out with. We'll be doing this again soon to talk about what's going on in the world of Auburn family news. Thank y'all for watching. War Eagle. YouTube folks, I stayed longer already than I know I just said bye, but for those of you that have been watching for a while, you'll know. Just because, not for really any real reason, but I always stay a little bit later on these things than I typically do. So sometimes y'all get a little bit of exclusive like time to ask questions and things like that. So if you stick around, that can you'll have that option sometimes. I'm going to go ahead and head out tonight just because of I went longer than I expected and I'm hungry. But I really appreciate all y'all being here tonight, and make sure the notification bell is marked and subscribed so you'll know when we go live again. War Eagle.